What was the creepiest experience in your own home? Episode 2. I have many stories that I can't explain and that I have blocked from my mind because they scared me. Here's one that takes the cake though. Several years ago, I had a little cousin, 12 years old, who was murdered in a tragic way. This was a couple of months prior to Christmas. The family didn't get together that year because it would have been too hard with my cousin not there. Shortly after Christmas we go to my aunt's house, mom of my cousin, and she wants to show us pictures she had recently took of her Christmas decorations. She doesn't mention there is anything wrong with the pictures, to see if we notice anything ourselves. There were 3 consecutive pictures she took of her Christmas tree. In one of the pictures to the side of the tree you can see my cousin standing there. It's a black and gray sort of misty outline of him. The most disturbing thing about this is how upset and pissed off the expression on his face was. It truly disturbed me. It was a look that seemed as if he was saying, "How could you let this happen to me?" Anyway, after that we are all freaked out. We're all sitting together trying to comprehend what we just saw. I was sitting on a couch facing a corner of the room. As I am staring at this corner there are 3 consecutive very loud bangs, as if someone was trying to tear the wall down. Never been so scared in my life. The house was 1 floor, no basement. I don't know how to explain it, wish I could though. Few other things have gone on involving my cousin, can't explain them. Really makes you believe there are forces beyond our comprehension. This is not me, but a friend of my mom's. She noticed strange things in her house, food depleting faster than usual, wet towels when she didn't remember having a shower, unlocked doors when she was sure she locked them, etc. This went on for months until she had to get something from her attic, and found homemade sleeping quarters, mini fridge, hot plate, television, etc. Every night a homeless person would climb a tree and sneak into her attic through a window that had a broken latch. She called the police officers. They found the guy. She never pressed charges, let him stay for free for 3 months, and now he pays a small amount of rent and lives there legally. Apparently he was a really nice guy that just wanted a home to sleep in. He helps with maintenance, mows the lawn, etc. Went from being creepy to a pretty cool story. One night we had just gotten back from a 2-week vacation. I walked onto the back porch and there was a big black mag flashlight. I grabbed it and showed my dad. It wasn't his, and we had no clue where it came from. That night I had a friend sleep over and we stayed in the game room above the garage playing video games. It was about 2 in the morning. I thought I heard a car door open outside. I peek through my window and see 2 men looking into my house windows. I freak out and run downstairs and get my dad. He jumps up and grabs a pistol from his nightstand. I follow him to the back door and we could hear the guys on the other side. They start messing with the door and then it opens up. As soon as that door opened up my dad had that pistol pressed up against one of the guys' foreheads. The other guy ran away and just left his buddy. After a few seconds I recognized the kid and he recognized me. He had no clue it was my house. He begged for my dad to not kill him and let him go. While we were standing there we smelled this horrible smell. The dude wet his pants and pissed all over himself. My dad eventually let the pants wet and go after the kid had to call his parents and let them know what he was up to. 2 come to mind. First, my wife and I were watching TV and they kept playing this commercial for some creepy new TV series that would be starting up soon. I decided to go to bed and announced as much to my wife. As I start walking across the living room, she gets up and turns the TV off. As I pass into the next room, I sidestep out of the way with the brilliant plan of scaring her. She turns off the lights and walks into the next room and I start with the roar. Before I can even finish the sound, I realize I should not have done that. She starts to freak out. So, in my infinite wisdom, I reach out to console her. In her scared state, she now thinks she's being attacked and scratches the living heck out of my arm. So now I'm dealing with a sobbing wife and blood dripping off my arm. Not one of my finer moments. Scared my wife, she scratched the hell out of me. Second, fast forward a few years. We now have a daughter, and for Christmas, all she wants in one of those for real friends pony. This thing is a monster and is light/sound/touch activated. One night after the kids were fast asleep, I went into the playroom to turn the light off. Just as I flicked the light off, this damn pony lets out a loud whinny. I damn near peed myself. I woke up in the middle of the night. Sat there for a few minutes. All of a sudden the screams of 1,000 dying souls filled the house, the doors of hell had opened, and Satan was about to emerge. A sea of souls cried out in pain and agony and echoed all throughout my bedroom. I screamed and curled into a ball, nearly pissing myself, awaiting Satan's hand to drag me to join this cacophony of suffering. My mom had flushed the toilet while a low-flying B-52 bomber was flying over my house. This caused the water in the pipes to vibrate and make loud Satan noises. Alright, maybe too late for this thread, but I'll try anyways. Sorry in advance for the wall of text, but bear with me. I was around 10 or 12 in bed in my dad's old house. I was lying in bed with my back towards my closet, it was open. I felt cold, which was odd because we didn't have air conditioning and it was the summer. The house got very warm quite often. It got to the point where I could see my breath. Creepy. I'm too young to know something is up, so I fetal position to stay warm. I feel a tap on my back, thinking it's my dad asking if I'm okay about the cold. I turn over to respond. What I see haunts me, even today, because I cannot explain it. There is this family of ghostly looking people, they are staring at me, eyes wide. Not a word said. There was a little girl brushing her hair, an old man in a wheelchair, and a mother comforting the both of them. I'm scared and I don't know what to do. They seem peaceful, so I keep calm and keep watching. Then out of the corner of my room I see another man. He is slowly walking towards the other with a knife. I almost piss my pants. I watch longer, it's like a car accident. I can't look away. He stabs all of them. No blood. After the fatal blows they simply disappear. I don't know what to think. After the other ones disappear, it is just the other man staring at me. Knife drawn, laughing hysterically. I flail and roll over. I begin to cry and scream for my father. He runs down and demands to know why it's so cold and why the floor by my closet was wet. I could not explain it. I never sleep with my closet open anymore, and shortly after that incident we moved. That house, that incident still haunts me to this day. This was really scary at the time, but I don't think I can do the story justice here. My mom and I were home alone one night, watching TV in the living room. I left her and went into the laundry room to get something, and while I was back there I heard something rustling in the garbage cans outside. I thought it was an animal, but when I looked out the window I saw the silhouette of a person. I was pretty freaked out and was getting ready to dash for the living room to tell my mother what I'd seen. But then the noise stopped, and I looked through the slats in the blinds again and didn't see anything, so I thought maybe in the dark I was imagining things. But then I heard another noise, at the back door. And I saw the door handle turning. And then I heard the door creaking open. And then I ducked down behind the kitchen table, but I could still hear footsteps on the kitchen floor over the thudding of my heart and the rushing adrenaline in my veins. And then, I heard my mom asking, "What are you doing behind the table?" I was just taking the trash out. In my house there are two entrances to the attic, one in the utility room and the second in the hallway. One day I head into town with my friends while the rest of my family goes shopping in a town about an hour away. I get home first and discover that the attic entrance in the hallway is slightly out of place. I'm a little spooked, but it's safe to assume that there are mice up there because my house is pretty old. I put the door back in place and watch some TV. Maybe 20 minutes later I remember that I put some clothes in the washing machine that morning, so I head into the utility room to toss them in the dryer. When I enter the utility room, The attic entrance in there is completely open. Not even kidding. Completely freaked out, I grab my bike and go for a long-ass cycle. When I get back, my family's home, completely unaware of the creepy attic door displacement. I tell them about it but they don't believe me. Still don't. Never had any problems with the attic doors afterward, but it creeps me whenever I walk under them. My brother also says he periodically sees a white figure walking past the kitchen window, as well as a hunched over, feminine figure outside our bedroom window early in the morning. When I was 10, I was home alone watching some TV one night. The doorbell rings. My parents always told me to never answer the door when they aren't home, but I peeked around the corner just to see if it was one of their friends or something. I make eye contact with an older man I have never seen before. He starts knocking and ringing the bell furiously for about 10 minutes straight as I hide in a corner of my basement crying my heart out. I call my mom during this and she said to just stay in the basement until they got home. Eventually it stopped and whoever the guy was left. It scares me to think what could have happened if I went to open the door that night. This is going to sound ridiculous, but when I was very young there was a corridor in my house that used to freak me out. It was long and dark and I always imagined it to be haunted. Anyway, I must have been about 5 and one time walking up the staircase and past the corridor I imagined I saw the behind and tail of a kangaroo. It's worth noting that this was in England, and I've never been remotely afraid of kangaroos, but it scared me. I'm now nearly 30 and I still get the chills from that corridor when I return home. Well, I bought my house about a year ago. It is an old farmhouse built in 1860, making 154 years old. One of the oldest homes in the area and by far the oldest home in the neighborhood. Anyway, so as you may expect there are often a number of odd sounds and noises that emanate from the bowels of the house. I always attributed the noises to the 40-year-old boiler or the general settling of the house. One night, around 9:30 I decided to head to bed early. I'm lying in bed, probably browsing Reddit, and I hear what I think is a knocking at my door. I have a German Shepherd and I thought I heard her barking as well. It was hard to hear. I had music on. I turned off the music and listened. I didn't hear anything. About 15 minutes later I hear a pounding on my door, and the dog is going nuts barking her head off. By this point I'm scared. Yeah, I'm a big guy, 6 feet 7 inches, with a dog, but I'm all alone. I muster the courage to go downstairs and investigate, but nothing, no one was there. It had recently snowed, so I checked the next day for footprints aside from my own and there were none. Still can't explain that one. My family owns an old cottage house in the country that's really creepy. In the 30s it was owned by a preacher named Joe who had a mentally handicapped son. They both died in the house. Here are some examples of things that will happen/have happened in that little house. Doors will jam and you'll be stuck in a room until you say, "Preacher Joe, let me out," and the knob will magically come loose. The thermostat has on many occasions changed from air conditioning to heat in the summer, and it's one of those old ones that you have to click over the little knob and change the temperature on the dial. Radios will change stations. If you try to play anything other than country, it'll find the nearest country station. One night our neighbor, who we gave a key to, woke up in the middle of the night because every TV and radio in the house was on at full volume but all the doors were locked, and nothing had been stolen. Sometimes you'll hear someone walking in the kitchen or out on the back porch. It scared me half to death a few times, but there's never been anyone there. The scariest thing is probably the one time we rented it out to the honeymoon couple. They were kind of trashy, but they didn't seem like druggies or crazies or anything. They ended up having the cops called on them around 3 a.m. by the neighbors for fighting in the front yard. Apparently they'd woken up and there was someone in the house, but all the doors were locked, so the husband thought that his wife had snuck someone in. He ran around the house and property with a knife looking for his wife's imaginary boyfriend while the poor wife tried to convince him no one was there. My dad didn't have the heart to tell the guy that we think the place is haunted. About 8 to 9 years ago, my brother was coming downstairs in the middle of the night when he caught sight of me in the kitchen carrying a plate with a sandwich on it. I walked over to the fridge and grabbed a juice box and turned to head back upstairs. My brother thought he'd hide and scare me as I walked by. So he snuck back up and hid just out of sight on the stairs leading to the third floor. He heard me start to make my way upstairs to my room and then there was silence. He didn't hear my bedroom door open and close, so he came back down, and I was nowhere to be seen. I used to have a bead curtain thing hanging in my doorway and it'd make that rattling noise every time anyone walked through it. And it continued to swing for a while after. But it was completely still and quiet. So, my brother came into my room to find me fast asleep. In different clothes from what I was wearing in the kitchen. He was weirded out so he woke me up and I had no idea what he was talking about. There was no sandwich or juice in my room. We went downstairs to investigate and couldn't find anything to show that anyone had been down there making a sandwich. We still don't exactly know what happened. My parents inherited this cuckoo clock from my grandfather. It was old and loud, no matter how loud I had the TV or my stereo, no matter what part of the house I was in, that insistent tick-tock from the pendulum would drive itself through my eardrums deep inside my brain and drive me mad. Anytime I was home alone I would stop the pendulum, then reset it when my parents came home. Years of doing this finally threw the clock off balance and it no longer worked. Fast forward about 5 years and I'm sitting there watching TV, slowly, quietly at first, then growing a little louder, then a little louder, then a little louder until it was deafening tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. I screamed like a little girl. I left the lights on, the TV on and the door unlocked as I get right the hell out there. Went to my neighbor's house and waited for my mom to get home. When she did I watched her have to unlock the door, and none of the lights or the TV was on. Still gives me chills. This happened at my old condo apartment. The bedroom was so small that I didn't put a bed in, and instead settled for a mattress. So one time, I woke up early for work and stood up to start preparing. Normally, even with lights off, I can see faintly around my room as I always leave the light at corridor on and it filters through the door's glass panels. But that moment I'm having trouble looking around. I thought I woke up too early because it's so dark and quiet, and I'm still too sleepy. So, I went for the light switch and clicked it on, but the lights didn't turn on. I thought maybe there's a power outage. That explains why it's so dark. My phone is the first immediate light source I thought of, so I reached for it and pressed the power button. It didn't turn on too. So, while I was trying to focus my eyes at the phone's screen to try and turn it on, I found myself looking at empty air. I wasn't not holding my phone, it turns out. In fact, I don't even have hands. I'm floating in my room, and I was able to see myself on the mattress below, asleep. I panicked. The next sensation I felt was that of getting sucked downward, and I woke up panting and with a rapid heartbeat. I was really scared. I thought these kinds of dreams happen only in movies.
Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, share and subscribe. The Internet Surfer on YouTube for more horror and scary stories.